Hello and welcome to our conversation about taking steps to improve equity, diversity, and inclusion in our places of work and communities. It is brought to you by the Greater Parkland Regional Chamber of Commerce and the Community and Social Development Department of the town of Stony. Have you ever had issues with your pay? Did you ever perceive that your pay was unfair based on your qualifications and contributions to the organization? If you feel that your pay is unfair, did that result in you working harder or less? In today's discussion, we're going to talk about something that is in spotlight in business: pay equity issues. The conversation takes place between myself, Mike, Renata, and Ada of BadaB Consulting. At the end, we'll also take a moment to tell you about our recognition badges that help you take steps and demonstrate your commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusion. Now, let's get talking.
Hi, Mike. When you hear the term pay, what are you thinking?
When I hear pay, I think about an exchange of value. For example, in the workplace, when we pay someone, that means we are valuing the experience, skill set, education, and knowledge of an employee, and the employee's contributions to the organization. And in exchange, we pay that employee accordingly with cash and non-cash rewards. I know that typically many items under pay, for example, healthcare benefits, retirement benefits, time off, and the like, are also called compensation. But for the purposes of our discussion today, let's just focus on the base pay they provide to workers, such as the hourly wage or yearly salary.
Thanks, Mike. Hi, Renata. In your line of work, advocating for workplace equity and inclusivity, what issues do you see employees run into when it comes to pay?
Thanks, Ada. There are a few areas of issues that employees can experience challenges with. Most obvious is that co-workers receive different pay because of their gender, although they bring the same amount of qualifications and contributions to the workplace. As a matter of fact, the gender pay gap exists across industries and professional levels. Research indicates that comparing the annual earnings of full-time workers, women workers in Canada earn an average of 76.8 cents for every dollar earned by men. This was from 2019. That is a 23% wage gap between genders. This could be further broken down. Indigenous women, for example, earn an average 35% less than non-Indigenous men. Racialized women working full-time earn on average 33% less than non-racialized men.
These are alarming insights. When I teach compensation-related courses at my university, I talk about the gender pay gap. Students would then ask a question. In Canada, we have a Pay Equity Act, and each jurisdiction has its own Human Rights Act that prevents pay discrimination from happening. So then, why is there still such a big gap in pay? I would point out that pay equity doesn't mean that two employees doing the same type of work must be paid the same. They can still receive different amounts of salaries based on differences between their qualifications and individual performance. But further than that, there are some reasons that there is a gender pay gap in our society. And Ada, do you want to explain this a little bit further?
Sure. There are multiple reasons. There are certain male-dominated industries and occupations, such as construction, oil and gas extraction, mining, utilities, to just name a few. They tend to offer higher pay and better benefits. Second, there are jobs that have historically had majority female workforces, such as home healthcare aides, childcare workers, tend to offer lower pay and fewer benefits. Third, we see in our society that there is a bigger request of providing opportunities for women in leadership positions. It is because women occupy less senior positions, hence making less salary. The fourth reason is also very obvious, is that women are disproportionately driven out of the workforce to accommodate caregiving and other unpaid obligations, thus tend to have less work experience than men. And when companies give out their annual salary increase or merit increase, women who are away during the year tend to miss out on the raises. All of these factors contribute to negative stereotyping of women's employability in higher paying positions. And at the same time, we need to influence leaders who might have biases against gender pay issues.
That's exactly it. So, Ada, from an organization management perspective, how can organizations ensure pay equity within the workplace?
Sure, how employees perceive the fairness of their pay can have a profound impact on their satisfaction and engagement. In my opinion, their perception of pay is more important than how much money they actually receive. To avoid turnover and damaged organization reputation, I would like to suggest some best practices. When structuring pay, organizations can look at both their internal fairness and market competitiveness. So first of all, organization needs to be committed to ensuring pay fairness between genders, establishing a policy on equitable pay strategy. The policy can further define its commitments to promote female workers to senior positions, offer customized training sessions, and consider salary and benefits incentives for female colleagues who take time away due to family obligations. Second, I would suggest conducting employee temperature check or surveys every year or every 2 years. Employers typically use these surveys to understand a few things impacting employees' morale and their engagement. I would suggest to include pay and pay equity perception as part of your next survey. Many organizations have comprehensive pay and benefits packages, but employees may not fully understand them, or their perception of the pay is different than what the leaders have hoped for. Third, conduct exit interviews. In learning why employees leave your organizations, if employees leave because of pay equity issues, then that helps you build a strong business case to make the change. Last, once you understand where the issues are, then zero in on tackling the issues. Organizations should periodically assess how fair their pay structure is to people from different genders, but doing the same work and possess similar qualifications. These can be done by reviewing payroll data. Renata, what would you like to add?
Well, it's easy to want to commit to diversity and inclusion, but to build an equitable workforce, organizations really need to take action and have a vision. I agree with you, Ada. Understanding the pain points of the organization, then taking the issues one by one is a great way of doing this. At the end of the day, equitable pay requires an investment of work and time, especially with changing employees' perceptions. That requires leaders to treat pay equity as an important element of the compensation process. Mike, anything you'd like to add?
There's lots of great things to add, but let's not overwhelm the audience with too much information at this time. So 2 simple things that you can consider to do. Action 1, review your organization's pay equity practices and identify any areas of concern. Action 2, benchmark with comparable organizations to learn how others are addressing pay equity issues. Then, based on the information collected, you can develop strategies to tackle these areas, but make sure that you take them one step at a time. That was a pretty good conversation. As we wrap up this session, I'd like to take just a minute to let you know that we offer a badge recognition program that is focused on supporting organizations in the early stages of action on equity, diversity, and inclusion. There are 6 badges available: leadership and capacity, accessibility, staffing, compensation, performance excellence, and learning. For each, we have a list of research-based practical indicators, and you tell us how your organization is fulfilling several of them. Then we have a confirmation meeting and award the badge. There's lots of flexibility built in, and the point is to inform and recognize your first steps on the journey of meaningful equity, diversity, and inclusion. Contact information for Ada, Renata, and myself are on screen. Please reach out to any of us or the corporate office to talk more about equity, diversity, and inclusion and how we can help you. And thanks to our partners, the Greater Parkland Regional Chamber of Commerce and Community and Social Development Department of the town of Stony Plain, who are advocates of equity, diversity, and inclusion.